Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Maddie Nichols about the Boogeyman, which is in theaters now. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for inviting me. Happy to be here.
I mean, it's people. I love a good horror movie, and this is what it is. And so good in the big screen. Like everyone's got to go see it in the theaters. The sound and it's just everything is just amazing. We're gonna get into it, obviously. Acting, storytelling, though, for you, when did that kind of all start for you? Did it start at a young age? Would you say, like your interest?
Yeah. I was about 10 years old. When I started. I was really shy, so it was helping me to get out of my shell.
And it's one of those things too where, I guess, were there certain kind of movies or shows that kind of interest you into kind of pursuing that? Or was it just kind of just the craft of acting and telling stories?
Well, I fell in love with storytelling after, but one of the big things that got me into it was Hunger Games. The books were coming out and I was in the 5th grade. And I really wanted to be Primrose. And I Googled online, me at 10 years old, to audition for this. And I had never done anything before. And no, I did not get an audition. But that's sort of the catalyst that brought me into it.
100%. And I'm curious what the audition process was for the Boogeyman. Did you audition for the role you got? Did you audition for multiple roles? What was that like audition-wise?
Yeah, I auditioned, or I read for Sadie, and I think that was just an intro to see if I could speak. I don't know. I read for that, and then I read for Natalie, and then I got a call back, which was really exciting. And in the call back, Rob and I talked about it, and he was saying
Mm-hmm.
maybe she just takes her jokes way too far, and I think she definitely thinks of herself like a comedian. Too far.
Is she a comedian or is she mean?
She's mean. I don't think she sees that, or maybe she does. So
that
keep her
first
away
scene,
from the hierarchy.
when we first meet your character, it's just the worst. With the
Yeah, she is the worst.
read the room, right?
Totally. Ugh. Doesn't
No.
get it.
And there's it's interesting too, because I think it's pretty cool because yourself and your castmates, you had kind of those school scenes, but you also had that scene at the hangout at the house too, which was really cool. What were those scenes like specifically?
It was really fun to shoot. I was so nervous because I was just intimidated by everyone, but everyone was so sweet. Everyone was so nice and lovely. It was wonderful. And I saw some familiar faces too in the crew. Garwin Sparks and Mark Morrison, just wonderful human beings, crew members in Louisiana. And it was nice.
And it's interesting too, because there's some scenes in the house too that are really, really scary, right? Does it fit? Are you kind of in the zone though, acting and not thinking about what's on the screen? Or I'm just curious about that, because I always find that really cool and interesting.
Yeah, in the closet scene, I had no idea what was going on. You don't know what the visuals look like. I had heard that the Boogeyman was this guy in a spandex suit just walking around. So hard to visualize it when you're on set, but Sophie and Sawyer characters did such a good job visualizing it, which is funny to see this guy in a spandex suit and the reaction.
And what were those scenes like with Sophie? Because there's those kind of scenes where we establish that your character is mean and doesn't know how to read the room. What were those scenes like?
Oh my gosh, I felt so bad because I pushed her, and then as soon as I'm so sorry. It was a lot.
Is it cool? I find it interesting because, horror movies have been around for a long time, but I feel like there's been this kind of boom and resurgence of popularity, and the horror movie fans are so passionate and eat all the content up. What's it like kind of working on a horror movie at a time where there really is a big appetite for that content?
It is the coolest. I still pinch myself because I've never been in a theater before on screen. So it's it was very intimidating. I'm still pinching myself. But I'm so stoked and happy and blessed.
And it's interesting as well too, because the Boogeyman, I feel like, is that tale that's like always been around. Like we've always heard about the Boogeyman, right? And was it just a cool thing to be able to kind of work on a project that like has kind of this like legacy as well?
Yes, it's so intimidating but exciting at the same time. And I love how Mark Heyman expanded the story of the Boogeyman from a short story and made the Boogeyman into an embodiment of grief. And it's just beautiful.
I feel like anytime you work on a movie set, because you worked on Emergency on Prime Video as well, and I feel like there's always going to be kind of learning experiences no matter what project. Whether you've been on a set one time or 1,000 times, you're going to learn something. What were some learning experiences on the Boogeyman specifically?
Sophie had mentioned that she was trying really hard not to have her character look like a victim, and I thought that was very interesting. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put that in my toolkit. That's to really fight for your character and make sure she, has a drive perspective.
And what's your relationship with a project that has original source material? Like, does it depend on the project, or like do you go back and like read the short stories and like watch the other stuff, the Boogeyman? Like, I'm curious, or do you go in fresh? Like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I try to read up on things, do my little studies before, just to get a gist of it,
Absolutely. And would you say like what would you say is like your favorite thing about being a storyteller? In the beginning, you said that you always had an interest. You started at a young age. But what do you like the most about it specifically?
Well, call me naive, but I feel like storytelling can change the way people think and therefore the world eventually. And, like in Boogeyman, when Mark came in, expanded the story into the Boogeyman being the embodiment of grief. I hope that our audiences feel empowered to like maybe conquer their grief as well and connect to their families. And yeah, I just think it's a beautiful thing to like connect with people and strangers around the world that you'll never meet, but impact them in some way.
How long were your scenes on set specifically? Like a lot of the school scenes, was that like 2-3 weeks, or was that just a couple of days, or like was it? And I feel like that's a misconception too. Like a lot of the stuff in the house, people think is just like one sequence. That probably took like a good amount of time, right?
It did. It was a couple of weeks. Oh gosh, I forgot the exact dates,
but around a couple of weeks for sure. Was there? Like, it's funny too, because you have a lot of scenes in the movie, but like they're not, I'm wondering, was it filmed? They probably weren't filmed in sequence, right?
Oh, no, sir. Filmed chronologically.
I find that really interesting, though, to be honest with you. I find it interesting.
It is. I sometimes forget it. Like, it makes sense, but yeah, it is interesting.
100%. And the Boogeyman is now in theaters. Has it hit you that people can go see it in the theaters? It's pretty crazy.
It's insane. I did pinching myself.
Have you had a chance to go see it with your family and friends yet?
Yes, I saw it with my dad, my family. They made a whole thing of it. My dad was really proud, just telling everyone in the theater, "She's the mean girl. She's the mean girl." And I was just hiding my face.
And then they're doing like a double take, and they're like, "What?"
And I was like rushing out the theater, like, "Dad, please stop." Oh my God.
And it's cool because now you've kind of been on projects, like you kind of been on that kind of streaming project and that movie theater project, because Emergency kind of goes on Prime Video, people get to watch it, and now you've done, it's like, did it feel like two different projects because of that aspect of it, or was it all storytelling?
Yeah, it was all storytelling, really. I feel like the only difference is after, once it's released, your family sort of sees it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they got to go see the Boogeyman now in theaters. Maddie, so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
And your Instagram account is just Maddie Nichols, right? If people want to check it out. Yes,
Maddie_Nichols. I forgot how many.
I think if you just put Maddie Nichols, they'll find it. I think. Which I think is good. Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. The Boogeyman is now in theaters, so go see it. Until next time, this is Maddie Nichols and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.